So it all started in a very middle class privileged way in my hot tub
Yeah.
in Northwest London, where Rose and I would frequently meet with generally other women of a similar kind of age. And during one particular discussion, we ended up talking about why it was that the media narrative around aging was so negative when we felt so positive in ourselves. What we recognize, as Rose said, around the media narrative was also the fact that at a certain age, and Rose has actually written about this, and I still get called one, even though I'm not one, everyone gets called a granny. Everyone in the media, you're always a granny. Anytime you're an older woman, it's like anytime they've written about me, it's like Granny 64 has sex with her partner on Sundays. I'm like, I'm not a granny. But my mother said yesterday, she said, I don't really think about the number at all. And I said, yeah, you say that, Mum. I said, and I get where you're coming from, because she's got this spirit. She's very energetic. She's healthy, she's good. And I said, but your number is a signifier of how long you've been here. And it does mean something,
Yes,
it's not without meaning. You've been here for 87 years and you've done all this stuff.
Don't bloody well give your life to charismatic, unavailable men.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to How to Have Extraordinary Relationships. And today I've got not one trouble, two troubles. I've got the wonderful Rouse, and I've got the wonderful Suzanne Noble, who are doing a podcast together with me, which I'm very excited about. And I have to say, I feel I know both of them. Suzanne, I do know because we've met. And Rose, we're kind of meeting here and we've bumped into each other in places. But what we're going to talk about today is aging, and in a really good way. So, don't all groan and turn off. We're talking about sex, we're talking about death, we're talking about grandparenting, we're talking about singing, we're talking about reinventing ourselves, and also about advantages of age, which Suzanne and Rose run together. And there is an awards ceremony on the 20th of November. And I'm a sponsor for one of the awards because it's a brilliant thing. I mean, I'm 58, so we're all, some of us are getting closer to death and further away from birth. That is how it is. So Advantages of Age is a social enterprise that challenges the media narrative around aging. And that's why they're having the awards at the Hoxton Hall, beautiful velvet curtained musical. And it's, full of pro-aging individuals and organisations to be celebrated, because we're living in an ageist era. So we're going to go into a little bit of that. But Advantages of Age is a Facebook group where everyone meets and talks and shares. So Suzanne and Rose, tell everyone about Advantages of Age and how it came about.
Suzanne.
All right. So it all started in a very middle class privileged way in my hot tub in Northwest London, where Rose and I would frequently meet with generally other women of a similar kind of age. And during one particular discussion, we ended up talking about why it was that the media narrative around aging was so negative when we felt so positive in ourselves. We felt creative, we felt on it. We didn't feel like our sex life had dwindled to nothing, as had been suggested in numerous articles. And one of the ladies in the hot tub, whose name is Amanda, said, oh, there should be something called Advantages of Age. And me being entrepreneurial, and also it must be said a bit drunk at that point, went on to Google and GoDaddy and thought, oh, I wonder if that website name is available. I quite like that. So within, 5 minutes, I bought that website name and started building a website, to which very shortly thereafter, Rose was like, oh, let's try and get some mates together and some people together to write interesting articles about positive aging. And I started finding and curating articles that were already out there in newspapers and magazines that were positive. And before we knew it, we had this very inspirational website full of really quite incredible articles that were all about the benefits of aging. And subsequent to that, some some guy I knew came along and said he thought he could get us an Arts Council grant.
Wow.
We were like, for what? Then he was like, oh, you could do some activities, you could do some stuff. And we got an Arts Council grant to which Rose and I applied ourselves.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, we
Rose could take
really
over.
serviced this Arts Council grant massively. We made a film, we made a documentary called Death Dinner at Kensal Green Cemetery, which is an hour-long documentary, we invited loads of people from what I call Death World to have a feast with us in the Dissenters Chapel, which we made into a performance as well. We did mini salons we love doing this. We want to do this again. We love doing these mini salons from the hot tub. So they went Facebook Live, and we just did absolutely loads of different, we're very eclectic. So we did things like, we did everything from style to co-housing to sex, tantric sex. We did tantric sex. We did, oh God, we did loads of different
We did fetish, we did kink.
Oh yeah.
We even had once, this is quite separate, but we had a beer tasting in the hot tub that a beer company sponsored, which was awesome, which was nuts and fun. And then we did a fabulous and flamboyant bus tour, which was traveling around London with many cases of Prosecco and people
still
dressed.
The Arts Council grant. An open top bus with like 70 people on it, mostly women, with Johnny Blue Eyes. I don't know if you know him as a stylist for people like the Scissor Sisters, but he's incredibly outrageous. So we actually met on that, and a lot of the foundational friendships that are kind of within Advantages of Age came from that bus, because we kind of got quite tipsy, and we danced, and we got off the bus and danced outside the Vivienne Westwood shop, Hyde Park Corner. It was really hilarious.
Yeah, it was. And since then we've set up a startup school for seniors that gets funded by the GLA. We do the awards, we do other activities. Rose has had another Arts Council grant. I've got grants for my singing. There's been, we've done so much stuff. It's all very eclectic. That's what I can say about it all. It's very eclectic.
So here's a weird question. Rose, who were you before you got old? Because this is called Advantages of Age. So we're all aging. So I would think, well, who were we? Or are we the same person? Or are we different? Who were we before?
I mean, I was a kind of punk and a hippie, I was both at various times along the way. And I've always been freelance. I've always been a freelance. For all those years, I was a music journalist, writing for The Face and Metropolis at The Standard, The Guardian Women's Page. So, I mean, I always had this life that was quite independent, traveling, never having much money. But what I always did was seek out a tribe, So as I got older, and I've done lots of workshops, you've become a therapist, psychotherapist, haven't you? Yeah. And I did a whole era of writing about, so I did Travel for the Independent, but in the early 90s, and I did all the kind of holidays, like yoga holidays, like Skiros, before they were really well known. And so I actually learned, one of them was Malcolm Stern, who's a psychotherapist. Out of that, I wrote about him for The Guardian. He invited me onto his year's therapy. So I went through I was splitting up with the father of my child. And so that was in my 40s, I kind of did all of that. And I went to women's groups. I had spent years in women's groups, which is why when it came, I was 64 when we started. I'm 72 now. When we started in the hot tub, I'd been to lots of quite, emotional, heavy, empathetic, for each other, women's groups. And when the hot tub came along, it was a kind of, back to this again, just drinking Prosecco and just like sharing stories, but not getting into the kind of deep, heavy emotion of it, and just having fun. So, it has really been for me about creating a tribe of people and creating community. I mean, that's really what I enjoy and what I do a lot of in Advantages of Age. I connect people. I do most of the posting on the Facebook page. I edit the Substacks. I'm always going, I'm commissioning people to write things. I'm interweaving things, and I love doing it. And it's become my community, you know, as well, which is just,
Definitely.
I mean, and I'm 72, which, you know, in my former life, I would have thought of as being old. I mean, old, and I'm always saying, you know, let's reclaim old, let's reappropriate old and things. But I would have kind of dreaded it. But now that I'm in this tribe and we are doing our own thing, I'm kind of like, well, look, hey, we're doing it.
Yeah, brilliant. And I mean, Skiros, so we won't go down that far, but if anyone doesn't know this, Skiros, look it up. It's a wonderful community and does all sorts of different stuff, and it's in Greece, and I've, you know, it's beautiful. So Suzanne, how about you? I mean, I know more about you, but tell us about you, because I know that you're singing, and I know that you also did sex advice for seniors, which I'm really interested in.
Yeah. And before Advantages of Age, what was I doing before Advantages of Age? God, feels like a lifetime ago. Yeah, I mean, I've always been more interested in solving problems. That's kind of my nature, is I've been quite entrepreneurial from a very early age. I mean, the very first job that I did in my 20s was with a bunch of girlfriends create an astrology series for Channel 4, because we were like, why is astrology not on Channel 4? It should be. And we created a series for the guy that commissioned the word and all of that. And following that, I worked a lot ran an entertainment PR agency. And then, you know, I suppose the thing that for me, Advantages of Age has done for me, because it's always been a part of a portfolio career and I've always had a portfolio career for a very long period of time. When my son didn't settle very easily when he was a baby, I set up a baby sling company and became extremely into attachment parenting and went full on in that. And then when my kids got a little bit older, I went into sex and wrote a couple of books around my sex life, one of which was very successful. So I've always kind of juggled lots of things. So the Advantages of Age has always run alongside other aspects of my life. But I suppose what's happened as a result of it is that I've seen through all the friends and acquaintances that both Rose and I have made and the tribe that we've created together, I've seen that while our original, hey, we're doing really amazing, things are wonderful, you know, there's still big challenges around getting older. And we're starting to realize within our own community how some people are struggling and how some people are not, and how some people are finding it difficult to meet a partner, for example, or some people are finding housing a challenge, or some people are losing their jobs. And so for me, I've kind of taken a lot of all of that on board and thought, well, you know, my nature is to try and solve problems. So what can I do to contribute to solving some of those big societal problems that I've seen as a result of meeting people in Advantages of Age, you know? So alongside all the fun stuff, which I love, and I love all the fun stuff, I've also seen that there's some challenging aspects to being older. And so some of my work now is about trying to solve some of those problems. So I try and juggle the fun and lightheartedness. And the Advantages of Age Awards is almost like, it's almost a culmination of a lot of that, because it is fun. It's like a super fun award ceremony. The categories are very eclectic. But within that, what we're trying to say is that there are some amazing organizations doing some unbelievably interesting and vital work around death, for example, and other aspects of life that just people don't know about. And, you know, one of the things my mother and father said when we did the first awards was they said, you know, this is really important work you're doing. Like I didn't, and my parents are in their 80s. So, you know, for them, it was like, we didn't know about any of this. And even when we think about death ourselves, we think about it as something to be scared of. And part of what we've done in Advantages of Age is try and remove some of that fear and try and encourage people to think about their end of life as being an interesting time, just as the beginning of life was. So,
So
yeah.
I always say that we can be, flamboyant and serious at the same time, because
Yeah.
there's both within our community too. We have the colour walkers who, they meet every month to dress in the most colourful things, and we're pretty flamboyant, but we're also quite serious in our intent and how we are, what we write about. And even in the Facebook page, it's a closed group, and people are vulnerable. People don't, not all the time, but people can talk about difficulties that they're having, as well as all the other bits.
Yeah.
So, Rose, what do you feel are the negative myths around aging? What you said actually you kind of came to certain age and thought, hang on a minute, I'm not really sure if I subscribe to this.
Well, so the bit when we were in that hot tub at that time, what we were thinking about was, the physical aspects of aging. We were thinking that, all the time, age gets depicted as something that's unattractive, unalluring, unsexy, and not creative. And we were angry that that's how it was thought of. And there was a lot of sexism, and this is something I'd come through. So I've got a partner who's in North Wales. I don't live with him, we live apart, but I spent at least 10 years being single and doing all the dating, it was guardian soulmate and things in these days. And I was so angry about how women, and I'm sure it still happens, have to take 10 years off their age, otherwise they get, you're 50 and you get like 70 or 80-year-olds, and just how biased that whole, how lie, and that all seemed like terrible. I hated all of that.
How did you meet your partner? It's true, if you put your age anyway, blah blah blah. How did you meet your partner?
I actually met my partner on a personal development. I had done loads and loads of personal development, and always thought that I should meet somebody on one of them, and never did. I always had exciting times, but I never, deeply profound and moving and whatever, but I never actually met somebody I ended up having a relationship with. And finally, I did a week's course called The Path of Love.
I know lots of people done Path of Love. Yeah.
And so, it's the Path of Love because it's not prescriptive. You can do something. So I was having a year where I got my friends to do rituals around me. It was as I was coming up for 60, and decided, okay, now Rose, it's time. You can have a partner now. And nothing was really working. I was still going for unavailable men, charismatic unavailable men.
I never do that. Yeah.
That thing. And
we don't want charismatic. We don't want charismatic. We want dull.
Yeah.
No,
ordinary. Sorry, I sang
ordinary and decent and kind. No, we don't want charismatic. Yeah.
Anyway, so that's what I did on the Path of Love. I declared I decided, okay, you're going to be courageous. You're going to say how pissed off you are about not being met about. And so Asanga was actually volunteering on it. He was one of the angels, as they're called, who at one point he held me. I wasn't attracted to him. Sorry, Asanga, he knows. I was attracted to one of the course leaders. Of course I was.
Yes. This is brilliant. I love it. Carry on. Brilliant.
Asanga and I were in contact afterwards. He wrote to me, and then I realised that he could actually write. That was a big thing for me, that he could communicate in a way that I liked. And eventually I went up to where it was a really horrifically, I was so scared. I eventually went up to his place in North Wales. And I went on being really, really anxious and scared for a long time, but the distance actually allowed me to keep on going, I think. I would have run away a lot a lot before.
Why were you anxious and scared? Because you'd actually finally met, so it's really
Yeah,
hard to say, I really want to meet
it's so
someone.
scary.
Yeah,
Commitment is so scary.
someone shows up and you go, oh my God, I've got
Yes.
what I asked for, and now I need to run away about 20,000 miles an hour. Yeah.
Yeah, all the time, definitely. So he managed to stay there, and I, in the end, managed to stay there. I knew that if we kept on going for long enough, I'd relax. I think 13 years later, it's 13 years later now, I have actually finally relaxed. Although it's still, it's a challenging thing to do. I have a relationship at 72 with somebody who's 82 in North Wales, and travel between the two, both of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he is, he's a rock climber, and he's got that kind of attitude towards life.
You got
tenacity, but he's also quite a risk taker. So he is. He doesn't mind taking. I mean, he doesn't mind taking a few risks on me, and he's very, very generous in his allowingness. So he just, in the I'm always off with my friends in London doing things, and actually he's now doing a lot more things, I have to say, in North Wales than when we started together. He was doing he was part of a life drawing class the other night, and I was like, oh, sank us out doing life drawing. No, it's really great.
So yes, Suzanne, what myths did you come across? Because you do sex advice for seniors, so I would like to talk about sex and getting older, but what were the myths, or what did you sort of start thinking, hang on a minute? Because when we're young, I don't think we think about what's it going to be like when we're over 60. Like,
yeah, and I think, part of the what we recognize, as Rose said, around the media narrative was also the fact that at a certain age, and Rose has actually written about this, and I still get called one, even though I'm not one. Everyone gets called a granny. Everyone in the media, you're always a granny. Anytime you're an older woman, it's like anytime they've written about me, it's like Granny 64 has sex with her partner on Sundays. I'm like, I'm not a granny. I'm just a woman. I'm just a woman who has sex with my partner on Sundays. Why do I have to be a woman who's a granny who's 64? Like, how does my age come into any of this? And it's always with women, especially. It's always, Rose 71. This one, it's, we're always defined, especially as older women, when we do anything that's out of the ordinary. Our age always has to be it's suggested, and it just drives me mad. But obviously, as I started getting more involved with the whole working side of things, I realized that from a working point of view, there is a point at which it just becomes very difficult to get a job, and ageism in the workplace now is just so rife, and it's not getting any better. And so I recognized that there were huge challenges that people were facing just about financial stability. It's so difficult at a certain age to just stay relevant, and part of the reason why, Rose and I are both freelance, but obviously we both shifted careers in our time. And part of that is a result of there just wasn't any work for me in that industry anymore. So I'm going to have to find something else to do. And what is it where I can still be relevant? And, for me, working on some of the challenges around aging has actually not only provided me with a sense of purpose and identity, but also given me some income, which is great. Because we all need that.
We all need that. So tell me about sex advice for seniors, because that really took off. Are you still doing it? Or
yeah, it's huge. It's actually
on TikTok. Did it go TikTok bonkers?
It's actually become something I make not an insignificant amount of money from, which is good. It actually, to be honest, it didn't start that much later than Advantages of Age. I set up a Facebook page called Sex Advice for Seniors, probably in I don't know. It was a long time ago. And I would just post in it every once in a while, because I saw in the Advantages of Age group that when we talked about sex initially, we talked a lot about sex, and we realized it was quite divisive. we realized that there were a lot of women who didn't want to talk about sex. And
Okay.
Rose and I kind of came to a decision that we would pull back a bit from talking too much about sex because we were both very interested in it, but we realized that it was divisive within the community of people that we were addressing. So I thought, I'm interested in this. I'm going to just set up this page. And it didn't really do very much. And then Peter came along, another guy I met on Facebook, and he I was just recently single, and we got together, and he had a bit of a broadcast background, and he was like, oh, we should do something about sex. It would be fun. So initially, after we fuck, we just sit in bed and chat basically, and then talk about it and make a podcast with it. And he loved that because it took off very, very quickly, and people thought we were hysterical, which we
Yeah.
were actually. And then he ran out of stuff to say. He moved to Sheffield, and by that point, it had kind of taken on a life of its own. So I got another co-host in who was a sexologist, and then she went on. She wanted to do some different kinds of work, and I've just been doing it on my own now for, I guess, I don't know, over 2 years maybe or something. So I think it's about 3 years old. I've done about 170 episodes. I do an episode every week. I've got a massive TikTok channel. Brands pay me to review sex toys. And I've now got a second job that is representing a cock ring company that I do.
That's hilarious.
And it's all kind of really taken off. But it's just, I mean, I could talk about sex forever, really, because I just think it's such an interesting topic. And when it comes to older people, again, a bit like advantages of age, I thought, I'm doing pretty well. I'm okay. It's sex isn't too painful and all this. And then I learned how to make it less painful and some other solutions around all of that. And then I realized that, God, doctors just aren't telling people about any of this stuff.
No, that's right. Yeah.
And
There is
people just aren't talking about it. And
Yeah.
a lot of people are coming up to me and going, can I ask you a question? How can I stop having painful intercourse? And I was like, well, there's, some very easy ways that you can sort that one out. And they said, oh, I didn't know about any of that. And so I realized that actually there were a huge, there was a greater percentage of people probably, or just about equal, who weren't enjoying it as were. And some of the reasons for them not enjoying it were solvable problems. And some of them were kind of problems of their own making, really.
Yeah. So there's
Suzanne
all
quite unusual for being a non-monogamous 60-year-old woman who's very out there about what she's doing.
Yeah.
Which is, all
Yeah. I mean, most of the clients I see come and the women are menopausal or postmenopausal. They say, I never want to have sex again.
I know. And there's so many of them.
And it's, we'll go into that now, but does that come up a lot on advantages of age?
Yeah. And because
it does, as well as, women, I feel like I know quite a lot of women and women within advantages of age who are post 60 who've really decided they've had enough. They're they like their lives as it is, as they are. Seeing their girlfriends, they're not in that kind of territory of really wanting to have a partner. They've established they've got good intimate relationships. They're not in that kind of chomping stage. And I really understand. They're interested in all sorts of other things. They're studying stuff. They're don't know, but they're exploring there are other kinds of explorations, whether it's travel, so that's just something to acknowledge, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I think as well, what I've learned through so many of the experts that I've spoken to, especially because now that the podcast has got quite a big profile, I get access to some really world-class experts in, talking about the menopause. People with huge, people working for Kinsey Institute with massive profiles in America. And when we start talking about things like libido and desire and arousal, I realize it's much more complex than mostly we hear about. And it relies on a whole variety of factors, including like how you communicate within your relationship, how much you had sexual pleasure in the past. Do you know your own body? Do you masturbate? Like there's like so
A lot of
many.
people give up self-pleasure.
Yeah, and so there's like and or how stressed are you exhausted? Are you tired all the time? Like all this sort of thing. And we tend to sort of boil it down to, well, they're in the menopause, and we just kind of brush it off. Like that's a menopausal thing for those women who decide they don't want it. And I suspect it's a hell of a lot more complicated than that based upon the conversations that I have. And certainly the way I approach my own sex life now is like completely different from how I was in my 20s. Like
So
totally
how do you approach it now? I think for most of us in our 20s, and that I'm very middle class home counties English girl. Number one, it was like don't get pregnant, whatever. Don't get pregnant. Don't get pregnant. Don't get pregnant. If you're gonna have, don't get pregnant. That's all I heard. I didn't hear sex can be magical. Sex can be wonderful. You don't have to be in love to have beautiful, gorgeous sex. And here's some books and there's some. No, all I heard was don't be pregnant. Don't get pregnant. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, look, for me, I'm very intentional about it. I schedule it in. I have a partner. We meet like on a weekly basis. That's our main activity that we do. We both really like the same things. We spend like 4 hours together and then we're good. It's like, okay, that was good. Thank you. And then
And I'm with an 82-year-old who things are changing for, and
yeah,
has changing for me. And I'm not actually doing all the things that Suzanne is talking about. I'm not taking any vaginal estrogen or whatever, but we are both kind of tantric explorers in a way. So we have a creative attitude. I mean, like I've written and done Radio 4 broadcasts about how we have baths together and we have a whole bathing ritual, and we still do, and we have certain things that we do which are appreciations. And we, like last time I was there, we just set up the massage table, and it started off as a me give it. Did I give him one first? No, actually I got him to get it. Yeah, he gave me a massage first. But we were saying to each other, we're thinking about age and time. And I was saying, look, it's fine if it's only 15 minutes. But that did turn into an erotic massage, and it did turn into a sexual thing. And it was great. It was a really good, and it was planning it, making an open fire, doing the whole thing. But we are used to kind of planning it. I will say, Friday morning, look, when I'm staying with him, let's have a making love morning. And what we know by that, when I say making love morning, we mean things that might end up with us actually having it, however it ends up, in what kind of, it might just end up as being sensual, but it might end up as more sexual. So we open up the doors, but we don't define what goes through the doors.
I think it's important, because I think that feeling, so people come to me, they think of sex as coitus, they think of sex as orgasming, they think of sex as man, and I'm like, whoa. I mean, sex is sensuality and intimacy and touch and, all those things that I think is important for our mind, body, spirit.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what do people come? I mean, you're myth busting, you're encouraging people. Have you got equal men and women, or is it mainly women who are engaging?
Well, when we start, obviously we're two women running it, so things that usually kind of filter down in that kind of way. But we were very, because there are other groups on Facebook that are just women, and we didn't want it to be just women. We wanted to create somewhere where men felt safe. And at first it was pretty much just women, and our topics were a bit more cliched, I feel like, like grey hair, like people going on about, oh, I'm going grey.
Yeah, true.
All the stuff around that. I mean, now these days we never talk about grey hair. It's just like, well, who gives a shit? We're either going grey or we're still hennering, but we tend to discuss things in a broader kind of way. And men did start feeling safe, and some of the conversations and dialogues that we have are pretty intimate from a women's point of view, but we know that men are there, and it's a pretty safe place. It's pretty considered. People are pretty thoughtful. I'm there, you know, moderating if anybody does kind of like tip over into some kind of sexism or anything, but mostly I don't have to. Mostly I don't have to, and men do join in when they want to. I think they feel like they've got permission to join in when they want to.
Yeah, and and I think that's what I've seen as well, is that they bounce around as well. Like I get guys that have found me through Sex Advice for Seniors and then come to Advantages of Age and go, oh my God, there's this amazing community at Advantages of Age, and vice versa. So I see that there's a lot of crossover in all the activities that we do, that people bounce around. And like when we do we've done a few walks and tours. We did one around a cemetery that was really fun. And we get guys coming along on that one.
Yay! I love cemeteries, actually. But there we go.
Me too.
Yeah.
And it was John Rogers, who's a psychographer, and he's absolutely brilliant. I mean, because that's one of my things, is I do urban walks. I've written books that are urban walks, so it's just another strand is urban walks. So you know, that's another thing that we do, and actually our members like coming on. We do picnics and things like that.
Yeah.
And I was going to say that this guy, because shortlisting for the awards is really great. We're shortlisting and we're finding our finalists, and obviously we don't know all of these people on the thing. And I sent a finalist email to this guy last week who's called Gary Colton, and he basically has written a book about finding out that he was ADHD and autistic. He's an academic, when he was 65, and then he's written a book. He's not actually in the non-fiction, he's in the inspirational personal story category. But it was just when he was 65, and then he wrote this book about it. And so we have shortlisted him for his story. And when he got his email, he wrote back. He obviously checked out the Substack magazine and everything, and he came back and he goes, and he'd already booked tickets for the awards, the hotel and everything. He goes, oh my God, I feel like I have so found my tribe. And it's been like reading all of our old stuff. Thanks. And that is just so, I mean, I just so love it when something like that happens.
Yeah.
So the messages, I guess you're saying, and I'm sure there are many, is you know, let's have a dialogue around aging. Let's think about what it is. Let's not fall into the tropes of crone or sort of widow or washed up. But Suzanne, you brought up many things that are very important. Is it, you know, who is it? Was it Joan Crawford who said getting old is not for the faint-hearted?
I don't know.
Or is it Marlene Dietrich or something? You know, and there, you know, there is a lot in that, isn't that? You know, it's a difficult.
There are aspects of that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But when I'm in my darkest moments, I just look ahead and all I see is grief. And I tell you why I see grief, because my mother's, you know, 92. I've got beloved siblings that are older than me. You know, I've got friends that aren't that well. And I think, oh my God, this is going to be awful.
Yeah.
So
I mean, see, I've got the opposite, because I went out to dinner with my mum and dad yesterday, and my dad's just turned 89, and he's got some health issues which are pissing him off, frankly. My mother's 88 or 87, and she just come back from standing 8 hours at a craft fair.
When they had you.
They were in their 20s, early 20s. But my mother said yesterday, she said, you know, I don't really think about the number at all. And I said, yeah, you say that, Mum. I said, and I get where you're coming from, because she's got this spirit. She's very energetic. She's healthy, you know, she's good. And I said, but your number is a signifier of how long you've been here. And it does mean something, you know.
Yes,
it's not without meaning. You've been here for 87 years and you've done all this stuff. So to just dismiss it as it's insignificant, it's not insignificant, but then it doesn't define you, is what you're saying. And I get that. She doesn't want it to define her, but I do think it is significant. Like,
I mean, sharing, being a resource for shared information,
Yes.
is a really, really huge thing. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not like we don't talk about things like exercise and, you know, and what we're all doing and eating and things like that. Not obsessively, but we do talk about those when they came up in articles or and people say. And I'm, you know, I'm wont to, my thing is I write questions into the group quite often. And what I love is that people do respond, not in just like 3 words. People write huge, lots of stuff about how it is for them, and you know, it is nuanced, I have to say. And so I feel like, yeah, of course there are, that, you know, it isn't, I'm pre-diabetic right at this moment, you know, I've been diagnosed as pre-diabetic, but I mean half the world seems to be pre-diabetic. But it just means that you have to take action, you know, in a way. Declaring it means you have to, you know, and it is a bit of a shock for me. I'm still playing singles tennis, I'm doing lots of things, dancing, whatever, but you know, that has happened, and therefore I have to do something about it.
So it's a forum for people to come and really read about things, talk about things, you know, from all the positive stuff to the other stuff, like, you know, I'm pre-diabetic and I'm really worried about it, or I can't remember, which is me, I can't remember my car keys are every day and I'm worried I'm losing my mind, which I am.
Yeah, somebody said the other day, can we bring up memory issues, Rose? And I said, yeah, just do a post and bring it up.
Yeah.
So it's a place where people can commune together, isn't it? Even though, you know, it's a place where people come and bring stuff and share it and get help and support, and just a kind of sense of camaraderie, I imagine, that people, because
and also it's kind of a culture thing too. So I you know, I'm always reviewing like Riot Women or art stuff that's on. I mean, I do treat it as though I'm still a journalist and I'm still kind of out there doing things that I'll recommend things, and then people will go, oh yeah, I watched it, and people don't necessarily agree with me, but people obviously enjoy having a debate. Like Riot Women is one of the things, and then it led on to us talking another post on Hebden Bridge, and then somebody in the group has got a Georgian place for sale in Hebden Bridge. She said, Rose, sorry, I'm taking over this thread with my house, but you know, I know her, and I was like, okay, that's fine, you know. And it was quite interesting to see where she lived. I was like, really, that's where you live? Anyway, it kind of rumbles and ripples on like that.
So, Suzanne, you are performing. You are a singer and performer.
And so are you, I see.
Well, not in the same way that you are. I just
and I'm also performing as a poet.
And Rose does poetry. So Rose is doing her MA in poetry.
Wow.
I've gone and I started re-engaging with singing that I'd been doing when I was in my 20s. I was in lots of bands, session singing and all sorts of stuff, and then re-engaged with it in my 50s. And so I've been working with the same pianist now for about 8 years, and doing gigs around London. I mean, you know, it's very difficult being a later life performer. It's not that easy. There's a lot of ageism in the entertainment industry.
If you had the right agent or something, it would be great. There needs to be an agent for older people, doesn't it?
Yeah, if I had the right agent,
the next thing, agency for older people.
Well, I did speak with Tom Morley years ago about doing a So Far Sounds for older musicians, which I thought would be fun, because So Far Sounds is always young people. But anyway, that was one little project, didn't go anywhere. But yeah, I mean, I've been really enjoying doing my singing. I just did a gig at Crazy Cops, which is an amazing cabaret venue, which I love. But I kind of have, it's interesting, you know, when you re-engage with a creative passion in later life, you have to just, you know, I'm kind of really at a bit of a crossroads. I've applied for an Arts Council grant. This is my 3rd time doing the application, so we'll see whether it goes through or not. But it gets hard. It is hard. You know, it's like your friends aren't the same as when they were in their 20s, and everybody's going out all the time.
You mean they're not going out all the time at the same thing, you know. not out there in the same way. They might go to gigs still, but they don't go to gigs like they used to do.
No, exactly.
Not the same
So
rate, not every
yeah.
night a week, not, you know,
No.
that kind of
So,
thing.
you know, you have to kind of, you always feel like you're dragging people out, and it's it is difficult. I mean, I absolutely love it, but I do have to reflect on, I've taken it very, very seriously for the past 8 years, and I've made some real progress I'm incredibly proud of myself for what I've been able to achieve. But I had a talk with my housemate lodger, who's a famous writer and loves and goes out every night, twice a day. And he said to me, "Look, Suzanne, you know, like it's time for you to kind of decide, like you need, you know, do you want to go to where you can, because you can get there if you want to, but it's gonna,
Yeah,
it's, you know,
giving up a few other things.
it means giving up other things." Yeah.
Okay, so is this person young that goes out twice a day?
Oh, no. Kevin's 69.
But he's
Oh, good on Kevin.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he comes to London. He lives with me for 6 months in a year, and he writes about culture, and he just writes about the arts and culture
he's a
and
really
his life.
I mean, he's a you know, he's a
He's a pilgrim. He's a pilgrim.
nomadic pilgrim.
But
Yeah.
Suzanne, you're a bit of a pilgrim because you go off to Tenerife for the winter.
Yeah, I just go to warm countries. So I'm going to Thailand this winter. I'm not going to go back to the Canaries. I'm going to try out Thailand for a couple of months.
Yeah, I know friends of mine go to Thailand and it's very cheap and completely amazing. Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
I've never been.
I've
So
just
what-
been to Algiers. I'm the traveller of.
And Rose
you've been
goes
to-
loads of places. She does
Algiers.
shorter trips.
Wow. How was
Yeah.
that?
Amazing.
Yeah.
But, you know, people were quite warning us off going. I
Yes.
went with a woman friend, another old journalist actually from the Evening Standard. And we do travel together because my partner has said that he just is happy in North Wales now. I've been on lots of trips with him. I traditionally go away, you know, for a month to India or something at Christmas time. But he came to the point where he's just happy to be in North Wales. And I said, but I want to keep traveling. And so I found myself somebody that I travel very easily with. We can even share a room, which, you know, as you get older, sharing.
Oh my God, I don't think I'm going to share them with anyone ever again if I can.
Exactly. I wasn't, but
Yeah, I'm like,
Ruby
absolutely no way.
Yeah, no, we can. She is deaf, which helps. Sorry, Ruby. She has hearing aids, which means that I don't have to be aware of myself in the way that I might be if that wasn't the case. And she sleeps really well and I don't. Anyway, Algiers was really, really fascinating. And we absolutely, we had a really interesting time. And Algerians were so keen for us to be there. And we were so glad that we did, you know, not take notice of people warning us off. I mean,
yes. So this often comes out in newspapers and all other things, but I always find it's interesting. You know, what would you tell your younger self? You know, what we, you know, at our age, we've done some learning. We've still got learning to do. Of course, we do. We're lifelong learners. But if you had a bit of advice or some nuggets of wisdom that you would say to the younger Suzanne, what would you say?
I'd say two things. I would say, when you're involved in a relationship, make sure you've got your communication skills down pat. And if you don't, go and see a relationship counselor before you get serious. So
yes, of course, no one does that. Yeah.
Make sure that you've got, you know, like, you know how to communicate about sex and about everything, really, right? That's really important. And the second thing I'd say, and I'm sure Rose would agree with me on this, is always look after your health. Because I think that's the biggest thing that for me has come out of like being in the world of aging, is that if you're healthy, if your health is good, then your life is good. But if your health is not good and you're older, then it sucks. And I look at, you know, and I look at my parents and I can see how hard it is now for my dad, just with all his health issues, and how my mother, it's kind of like, come on, you know, let's go, right?
Yeah. Okay. Rose, what would you?
Well, I would say the way that I believed when I was 25, that that actually old people are not necessarily wise, that this whole wisdom that is given to them is actually an illusion, and that's one of the tenets I feel of advantages of age, is they're not, that not to dwell in that kind of superior wisdom place, but to kind of go, we're all curious. We're curious about what's going on still. In fact, that's why we're alike, me and my 25-year-old. I am still keeping on that curiosity about most things, actually.
Yeah. But would you give her a piece? Would you say to her, you should have married Derek, or would you say to her, you should have had 6 children, or you should?
I would say, don't fall for don't bloody well give your life to charismatic, unavailable men. I mean, that I would investigate. I would have investigated relationships, as Suzanne says earlier. And that is something that is an advantage. Like my son, for instance, he did a men's work weekend when he was 30. They are more aware of communication and emotional intelligence. I mean, it took me to split up with my then partner for me to then investigate, but then in my 40s. So that definitely helps in so many different ways to realize really what your shadow self is. If you realize if you take on board your shadows, then you can go forth, with so much awareness. I mean, it's still always, and it doesn't end that. It just doesn't end.
Yes.
Not like you go, that's it, that's sorted out. But again, it's that openness about those things that's so important.
I think it's more commonplace now, though, for young people to go see therapists or to go to men's groups or women's groups or whatever. I back when I was younger, the only people that went into therapy were people who, in my mind, had very serious mental health challenges. And now my son lives in New York, so if you don't go to a therapist, you're kind of weird, right? So...
Oh yeah. No, you're not allowed in New York if you haven't got a therapist.
Exactly.
And what's on your bucket list? A couple of things on your bucket. What are you thinking? God, before I can't move anymore, or whatever, I really want to do this, or I really want to achieve that. What's?
I mean, again, oh dear, I'm a perpetual rebel, so I don't believe in bucket lists, but I do have things.
No, I don't think
not on a bucket list. They're like traveling in northern India. I've done Kerala, I've done the southern India, I've done all that bit, but I'd go on a longer. When I finish this MA, which is quite challenging, and I'm having to devote quite a lot of time to it, then I am going to go traveling a bit more.
So traveling is really your thing. It's what you really love to do.
Yeah, traveling is a lot of what I love. Yeah.
I've always said I wanted to travel the world like a Victorian. So my thing about it, but not necessarily having people carrying my suitcases and stuff. I just meant by that I wanted to have the liberty of going somewhere for long periods of time, settling in and not really having an agenda, and then deciding when I wanted to leave. And I suppose when I first went to the Canaries 4 years ago, I think it was 4 years ago, that was my first attempt at just going somewhere unfamiliar and just staying there for a few months. And similarly with Thailand, I've just booked Thailand for 2 months. I've never been there. Booked a month one place, a month the other place. And I just wanted to settle in and just see how I feel about it and, travel around a bit. But really, I just want to be able to have the freedom, the financial freedom now, with everything that I do, to just be able to pick up and go anywhere. And, I'm off to New York on Wednesday for a couple weeks. So yeah, I suppose it's not like Rose. I don't have a bucket list. It's just what I'd like to do. It's just what I want to do, really. Yeah.
So what would you tell people came to you? What do you tell people so that they come to advantages of age? I mean, what would you tell people? Why this is why you should come to our community. What would they, what are they gonna learn?
We said that our kind of our strap line was going to be, or is, aging differently.
Aging
So,
differently. Yeah.
and I think that really sums up who we are. And whatever that means to you, it does, we're not anti-Botox. There's like, if people want to dye their hair, not dye their hair, have Botox, not, but it's about having the freedom and the ability to be able to choose how we age, and to also be able to show people, in others, how aging might look differently. And I think often the role model, we don't have that many role models. Helen Mirren is like the poster child for like
Yeah.
every older person.
Yeah.
And so it's nice to be able to see people who are, like Rose doing an MA at 71, or me singing, or somebody else deciding to just live in a van, or travel, or, do whatever. Our community is full of people that have decided to age differently. So
Yeah.
we're not unusual in that regard. We're not trying to be better than anyone else. We're
No, you're
literally,
offering
we're just,
suggestions, alternatives. Yeah.
yeah.
And I
And
think a lot of older people, I mean, not just older people, right? But a lot of older people maybe would talk about it more, fear loneliness. I mean, lots of young people fear loneliness, but I think people do fear
oh,
lack of connection.
yeah, totally. And we have had people say within the group that they are lonely. We had a big discussion once about loneliness. So, it's not that we avoid that topic either. It's not as if we're shying away from some of the more difficult conversations that we do all have around sometimes how difficult it can be to get older. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So, I mean, I think a really key message that you're doing is how can we live our lives fully? And people might have very different, you're a busy person, you like to do lots of things, I'm like that, but lots of people will live their own version of that, right?
Yeah, completely. Yeah.
They might decide to be I fully is whatever,
So that's what the awards is all about, is creating a place where people, I mean, it is so brilliant to see. Also, we have Style Queen and Style King award. And it's just great to see people put effort into all sorts of things in terms of how they look in that kind of flamboyant way, but they don't usually get acknowledged for it. So we've had people getting very excited about it, and we do have awards for even contributing. There's a Facebook contributor award for people because we have some people who just come on and they're just eternally. We have one woman called Annie who's in her late 80s and lives in Tunbridge Wells, I think, and she is always on our Facebook group being incredibly encouraging about stuff that different people are doing, just very upbeat. So
So how can people find, well, first of all, can anyone come to the awards?
Anyone can come to the awards, no matter what their age, doesn't matter. And we'll post the link, and they can find us on Substack at Advantages of Age, which is our online magazine where you can find literally hundreds of inspirational articles.
Great.
Or they can join our Facebook group, which is called Advantages of Age, Baby Boomers and Beyond.
Baby Boomers and Beyond.
His book,
and we have a book which is
Other Inspiring Stories.
Yeah, that's an anthology that comes from the magazine of different writers.
And we can get that on Amazon or anywhere.
You can get it on Amazon, or you can get it direct from me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And lots of us have written a few. I've written a piece for you. So there's lots of interesting pieces.
Yes.
On Advantages of Age. Anything else you want to let us know about before we know how to find you?
We're going to be on Robert Elms.
We're going to be on Robert Elms. And
on the 15th at 11:30 with Suzanne and I going into the studio. One of our favourite broadcasters.
Yeah, we love him.
Yeah.
So get involved, everybody. There's picnics, there's all sorts of things that go on. So the main thing is to join the group, isn't it?
Yeah. And check out and join our Substack. We would welcome you to join our Substack. Just to reiterate, we are a social enterprise, so that means that We're a not-for-profit, and under the umbrella of Advantages of Age, we deliver activities. Rose moderates the Facebook group, commissions articles for the website, Startup School for Seniors, all of which cost money. So the membership, the subscription on the Substack actually goes towards some of our overheads. So
and what happens is that people who do pay subscriptions can advertise their services within our group.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's for everybody, you know.
Yeah.
So because, you know, some of us are sort of out there because that's the way we're made, and other people are a bit more shy. So it's a community full of lots of different types of people.
Absolutely, 100%.
Just communicating and you know, getting it's a really wonderful thing that you're doing, and you're myth busting.
Thank you. We are indeed.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you both so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks,
I really,
Lucy.
really appreciate you being here.
Marvelous.
Okay.